Okay, great. Let's look at your translation homework. Any questions here? Charles, which one were you wondering about?
Sorry, I did all my homework on like 2 pages, so I'm trying. When you told me I didn't have to turn it in, I just did it all together, so I'm trying to find exactly. Could you do number? Number 1.
So number 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just for my sake.
Yeah, sure. Why don't you go ahead and give us your translation as far as you can go, and we'll help you along the way here.
So that Vahi,
Mm-hmm.
that's a marker of like time, kind of. So it's
Right.
like a wind.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, when you've got that bet
yeah,
preposition,
there, yeah.
but it's past.
Yeah. So when they began to do bad things or to do evil things, or maybe just to do evil, I turned the eyes of me in my eyes.
Yeah, I turned them where?
Away.
Yeah, I turned my eyes away or aside from.
Yeah. I guess my main question was just kind of like if you could go over the Vahi and then the Bait.
Bahakilam?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good question. So let's take a look real quickly. What I have is whenever you have a Vaihi and then a bet immediately after, 99 out of 100 times that bet is the preposition bet. Okay? And it's giving you temporal information. Vaihi, past time, time frame, in the morning, in the evening, or in the act of doing something, meaning when somebody did such and such, and you'll have that bet attached to an infinitive. So this is so go ahead and bracket that out so that you can go to what's next and start analyzing the verbal form. On the back side, we have an which if you are thinking bet preposition, this might be an infinitive that it's attached to. Look and see, is there a pronominal suffix on the back side? And there is. The is which person, gender, number? 3MP. So this is when they blank and past time. So it's going to be when they blanked. And so now what are we left with? Well, this is really nice. We have a hey, a chet, and a lamed. So you might think, okay, maybe those are my 3 root letters. Maybe this is a verb, hachal. Okay? If you looked up that verb, probably wouldn't find anything. So then you might say, well, maybe what I've done is I've misanalyzed my root letters, and those aren't 1, 2, and 3. Rather, this is 1, 2, and 3, because I've got a doubling dot in the lamed, and the hey must be what? A prefix hey for which stem? Hifel or hofal. Okay? And as a matter of fact, if this is an infinitive construct, then it could be a nifal too, right? So what I've got is perhaps halal with a prefix hey that marks nifal, hifil, or hofal infinitive construct. Now, with that in mind, I just then have to look at the vowel here because if you took your principal parts page and looked at the vowels that go under the hey for the nifal, hifil, and hofal infinitive construct, you'd find different vowel points, wouldn't you? Yeah, what would the nifal's vowel pointing be under the hey? An I class. Hifil, A class, hofal, U class. Ha! Those are our 3 vowel classes, aren't they? A, I, and U. Yes. So I know that when I harp over knowing your vowel classes, and you sit there and you think about all the possible forms. But the reality is that if you can strip away most of the stuff that we're stripping away, and you're left with the 3 possibilities, they usually are going to follow along one of the vowel classes. One stem will use one vowel class, and the other stems will use the other 2. Okay? So this is a hifil, isn't it? So hifil infinitive construct with these bet prefixes and 3 NP pronominal suffixes. Okay? So it's when they hifil halal. And don't get that confused with halal with a hey. Okay? So what's halal with the het? That's the hey. Yes.
Oh, sorry. This is to do evil.
Yes. So, yeah, yes, there's actually a couple of senses. So if you look on page 291, this can be a bit confusing. You have to learn both of these meanings because you'll run into both of these verbs. By the way, there's a Roman numeral 1 and a Roman numeral 2. We haven't talked about this before in baby Hebrew, but when you come into a lexicon and you see the same verbal root, but then a Roman numeral 1 and a Roman numeral 2, what is the lexicographer telling you? These are two different words that happen to be spelled the same, that happen to share the same roots. But they don't think that they're actually the same word with just a couple of related but different meanings. Okay?
That would be like, I feel like
yes, we have a word for this. This is called homonyms. Homonyms. That's right. So, as opposed to, take a word like breeze in English. A breeze could be literally the wind blowing, or we could say, that test was a breeze. That doesn't mean that the wind was blowing. Okay, that is a secondary meaning of one word. So that one word has two meanings. So I wouldn't have Roman numeral 1 breeze in my dictionary and then Roman numeral 2 breeze in my dictionary. I would have just the word breeze, and then one meaning of it is wind blowing. Second meaning would be metaphorical, something easy.
So English homonyms, I think typically the 2 or 3, however many there are at least going to be different types of words, like one would be different parts of speech.
Usually, but that's not always the case.
So are there 2 verbs that have the same spelling?
Yeah, so these are just 2 different verbs that happen to share the same roots. Right. Yeah, like the word bank in English, because the financial institution and the riverbank are 2 wildly different meanings. They don't come from the same history, and they would have their own lexical entry in the dictionary, or they should. Okay, so does that help though with number 1? So when they began to do evil, I turned my eyes. Yes.
Sorry, Val.
No, go ahead.
I was going to ask if there is an explanation for the shortening to patak under the hay, or if we can be sufficient just looking for an A-class vowel is fine.
Yeah. Well, so here I would expect that if you go back to pakad as your paradigm verb, the hifil infinitive construct is haf kid. So it normally has a pathak. Okay. Now, we have a situation here though where there's no vocal, or there's no shava under this, right? So that's not going to look exactly like this because our 3 root letters are showing up in different ways here. So this would have been hachel, okay, with the implied dagesh forte ready to drop in. And once I add the ending, then it pops in there. And because the accent slides over from here to here, that becomes, with the doubling dot, closed and unaccented, and it has to reduce to a short vowel.
I know that at least the paradigm for Savav, in the Geminate paradigm, it uses a patak under that hay, under the hifil, and I'm just not sure if that was unique to Savav or if this was unique to Chalel. Because I know I've made the mistake of seeing an A-class vowel that was different from what I expected. I said A-class, and I ended up mistranslating, so I just wasn't.
Yeah. No, what my guess is that, you know how, like with this one, you have the problem of either Like normally, just like right here, your prefix hey, in an ideal world, it's going to be closed with root 1, right? Your hey prefix will close with root 1, and of course it'll be unaccented, so you will be expecting a short vowel, right? When it has to be open, then it's going to be long, okay? But there will be times when it tries to close by doing the doubling dot thing. And my guess is that with this particular verb, it probably has an implied doubling dot here. Like this, if you remember, hey and chet are gutturals where you can't put a dagesh forte, but you often get virtual doubling of it so that you can have a short vowel before it. Yeah. Okay. Anybody have any final questions here before we close the book on this chapter? Yeah. So when they began to do evil, I turned my eyes away. I turned away my eyes, or turned aside my eyes. All right. Other questions on the translation work here, or the parsing? I think I only gave you the first 5 in the homework, so let's focus on any questions you have on 1 through 5. So number 4, I heard. Let me read that out real quickly. Vayhi bishmoa hakohanim hechelu likroa et bigdehem. All right. So I have Vayhi. That tells me that this is going to be what time frame? Vayhi. That's past. That's right. That's a Vayiktol or WCI form. Now I have a bet. And so when you have Vayhi plus a bet, 99 out of 100 times that is the preposition bet. And it's telling you when something happened in the past, if you have Vayhi. All right? So I've got a bet preposition attached to shemoa. Shemoa. What kind of a verbal form would this be with a bet attached to it after Vayhi? That's right. That is an infinitive construct. And which stem, I get, wonderfully, I see 3 root letters here. So this is a very normal verb except for the guttural in root 3 position. But the vowel pointing is very normal here. What stem is this for an infinitive construct? Yeah, it's the good old cal. So it's past time in the hearing or when someone heard. Now, who did the hearing here? If I keep reading, I have ha kohanim right after the infinitive. And a lot of times, if I don't have a pronominal suffix with the infinitive, but a noun right after it, then that noun is the conceptual subject of the infinitive. So how am I going to translate this? Yeah, when the priests heard, and I'm using past because of that Vayhi. If it were v'haya, a v'katal or a WCP form, that would make it future. And I would translate it as when the priests hear, sometime coming up. When you hear my voice, right? When the priests hear this, they will do such and such. But with the Vayhi, it's past. So when the priests heard, then this is what happened. He chelu likroa. What's going on here with this verb? Are these my 3 root letters? He, chet, lamed? Nope. I'm just trying to trick you here, right? Hey could be root 1 if the verb's root starts with a hey, but more frequently than not, the hey is a prefix hey, and then I'm looking at roots 1, 2, and is that doubled lamed? Yes. So that could be roots 2 and 3 together, right? So that would make this verb not halal to praise, but halal. Sorry. That's looking really shabby. Give it a shave here. There. So, there's a couple of meanings to halal according to your vocab list, right? Halal can mean to begin, right? And it can also have to do with defiling or polluting. What do we have here? We have a hey prefix with an I class vowel. So are you pretty sure you could tell me what stem that is? Yeah, that's looking hifil perfectish, right? Prefix hey, I class vowel. Got a shurik on the backside though. So that tells me it's 3CP. Who do you think this they is that's doing the halaling? The priest, that's right. So when the priest heard, they, the priests, halaled, and then likroa, which is a lamed prep, plus the same kind of form as shemoa. That's a cal infinitive construct too, right? It's got all the same pointing. Even the guttural in root 3 position. So I get that furtive pathak, that sneaky little thing. So they halaled to kara. You remember that verb? To tear. That's right. So would you think that beginning would go with to tear or polluting? Begin. Yeah. So halal in the hifil here is to begin. So they began to tear or rip or rend et bigdehem. Yeah, their garments. Now take a look at this word, bigdehem. Do I have a pronominal suffix here? Yeah, there's the hem, right? That's the 3MP, which again refers back to the priest there. Frank, tell me about that yod right before the pronoun. What does that tell you about this noun? That is a plural noun. That's right. So it's their plural things. And so you may not know this word. I think it's relatively new for the chapter. But this is beged, right? Beged. It's a singular noun, garment. And when it becomes plural, we lose the singular vocalization here, and I get this single short vowel under root 1. We saw this with Melech, but it became a pathak. Malkehem would be their kings. Beged becomes kirik there under its first root letter, bigdehem. So their garments. All right, so there you go. Anybody have any other questions? Okay, yeah. Look at number 5 here. I'll read this. Vayachel hanavi lavo et ha'ir vayikra b'shem Adonai. Now, I have a vayachel here. Now, you see the vav pathak doubling dot. So you know this is what kind of form? Yeah, it's a vayiktol or a WCI. So the yod is part of the nutty prefix system, right? Which means that what comes after that is root 1, root 2, and maybe root 3 if this is a geminate verb. Do we have a geminate verb that has a chet lamed pattern? Well, unless you were sleeping during the last question, yes, right? Here it is. Halal. What do you think it might mean here? Perhaps to begin, right? Now, here's what we need to ask ourselves. So the prefix yod, no ending at the backside, so that's 3ms. What stem is this? Vayachel. What vowel class is that segol under the root 1 consonant? That's an I class vowel. Does the cal usually get an I-class vowel here? No, it doesn't. But which stem loves I-class vowels for their theme vowels? The hifil. The PL does also. Yeah, but remember the PL, if geminate verbs are using the PL, they're going to be very regular. Yechalel. Yechalel. Okay? Where you'd see all three root letters. Here we've collapsed the two root letters at the back together. This is a hifil. Okay? Here's what I'd like to have you do is take a look at the weak verb paradigms real quickly and just check yourself now and say, okay, I think this is a hifil WCI 3MS of halal. Let's take a look at an example of a hifil of a geminate verb like this in your weak verb paradigms. So let's pull that up. So here's our geminate page for the weak verb paradigms. Here's what I want you to see. So if you go to the imperfect, this is the cal forms here. In the cal, I get my root 1, root 2, and 3, and look at what I've got. Because 2 and 3 have become a single letter, it's become a monosyllable. That means that the yod isn't closing the syllable. It's going to be open and long, right? And what is the vowel here? Even in the cal, it's a kametz. Okay, so you can't look at that vowel there and say, oh, that looks like a hifil, because in the hifil imperfect of regular verbs, I get an A-class vowel there. Well, that's true, but for a couple of these weak verbs, you're also going to get these long A-class vowels when it's open. Okay, now look over here. Here's the hifil section, and I get ya save, and notice that also has a prefix with a long A vowel. Okay, so what's the difference between the cal of savav and the hifil of savav in the imperfect? It's the matter of the theme vowel. With savav, it's U class. With in the cal, with the hifil, it's I class. You see that? Now, remember, we're not just looking at the imperfect. We're looking at the WCI. So look at the hifil. What happens? It's va yasev. Va yasev. I've still got the ya here, but because the stress frequently retracts on the vayiktal forms of the uninflected forms, the forms that have no ending, that sere has shortened to a segol because this is closed and unaccented. The cuss rule applies here. Okay? Vayasev instead of vayasev. Well, what do we have for our homework? We have vayachel, right? It would have been vayachel with a sere, which is still I class, but with the stress moving backwards to the prefix, it becomes a segol. But that is still all in keeping with the hifil WCI 3MS form. So this does match. So we analyzed it without looking at the paradigm, but then we've gone back to our weak verb paradigms and confirmed that this is in fact the right answer. Okay? So it's, and he began. Now, here I have Hanavi, so that's going to be my subject. The prophet began, and then I have a lamed plus an infinitive construct, right? The prophet began to what? What's bo? Enter. Enter, go in. Et ha'ir, to enter the city. Vayikra. Yeah, and he called. This, by the way, is just a regular cal WCI 3MS from kara. All my root letters are present. I have an A-class vowel here because root 3 is what kind of a vowel, or what kind of a consonant? It's a guttural, right? Gutturals prefer A-class theme vowels in the cal imperfect. So, and he called B'Shem Adonai. Yeah, he called on or it could be he called out in the name of Yahweh. Okay? All right, good. Well, let's stop there.